Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to share some interesting data that I was able to kind of craft up. And really the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I was curious about the 4% rule. So if you don't know, the 4% rule is essentially a kind of rule of thumb, essentially saying that if you took out 4% annually from the balance of your retirement account, you should be able to only draw down on the gains as opposed to the actual basis of your portfolio. And this is just kind of a rule of thumb to look at it. Now, I have to admit, I may have misinterpreted how that works, but my understanding of it was that you just take out 4% per year, every year. So I said, okay, well, you know, there's all these great assumptions about it, and it actually is proven. There's some data and analysis I've seen that has shown that this does work, depending on whatever your portfolio construction is. But, you know, a model is just that, it's a model. But for your own personal situation, nobody really knows except for you. Now, having said that, I think it's important now, especially with the internet, and the way that data is now being collected in such vast amounts of it, that you can actually make very, very well-informed decisions, because systems can now pull all that information into one place and then apply that into some kind of modeling software. So the one I'm talking about is Bolden. I have it, I bought it. I'm not a representative of Bolden at all, but I'm using that tool to actually model my portfolio. It's given me a lot of good information. It makes me a little concerned because it looks very rosy, which is why I went to look at this. So let me share with you what I'm talking about. The following is the assumptions. We're going to start with a $2 million portfolio. We're going to back test it 10 years back, up to I think January of 2025. That's the data set we're going to work with. So what I did was I downloaded the S&P 500's returns, monthly returns for that time period, for the 10 years. And I wanted to see what is going to happen to your portfolio just on a market basis, not anything related to your expenses or in some cases your expenses, but not related to your taxes or any kind of one-time events. But let's just say, you know, the last 10 years was a very interesting time frame. That's why I chose it. You know, COVID was in that data set. There were some other things going on with different elections, right? Trump was in there, Biden was in there. So it was an interesting time. Probably the best one would have been in 2008, but you know, that's a different story. This was a good data set in my opinion to use. So here's what I found, right? So if you started in January of 2015, you would have had, start with $2 million. If you went to the next year, assuming you had withdrawn not 4%, because 4% on a monthly basis is something like $600. And that to me was just too low. I said to myself, okay, most people probably are going to have a bigger nut to cover. And let's just say that it's steady state, you know, monthly all the time. So what I chose was $10,000. So that's $120,000 per year. Okay, it's probably a big number, but let's assume for a moment you still have a mortgage or some other kinds of debt. And by the way, I'm not factoring in anything related to the pay down of a mortgage or any other kinds of debts that you have. If you want to look at that kind of analysis, definitely get Bolden, because it can model it for you, because it will figure out when the best time is to get, you know, that your mortgage is going to relinquish itself. On top of which, it's going to factor in Roth conversions for you, and the best time to do that from a tax advantage perspective. Also for like Medicare, for IRMA. This is just pure. If I had $2 million and I only had one asset class, which is the S&P 500, how would I have done? So in that regard, what the numbers tell me was really astonishing, because if I spent $120,000 a year, if you see, from January 2015, I would be down $1.7 million. So I would have had to spend that $120,000 plus the market returns at that time. The other thing also is that you know, I'm not varying the expenses. So look at what happens here. From year 2015 all the way up to January 2025, if I constantly took $120,000 a year based upon this market returns, I would have still had $3.5 million. Somehow, regardless of what I was taking out, because of the market gains, you make $1.5 million on the $2 million. So what does that tell you? Well, it tells me a lot of things. You don't have to worry, maybe, about retirement. Now, naturally, not everybody has a $2 million portfolio, but just assume that someone does. That's pretty significant. Even if I were to ratchet it down from a different portfolio number, I would think we would see very many different kinds of variations of it. But regardless of that, the markets, even in a bad market, it would still provide greater returns for you than not just leaving it in cash. I would strongly suggest you go to some of these other tools, and maybe I'll find them for you. But maybe rather than a pure 100% market portfolio, you do what, like the 80-20 or 60-40, right, with bonds and equity. But I wanted to share this with you because it's really encouraging. I could be very wrong in these assumptions. Maybe I didn't do the calculations right. Please let me know. If anybody of you are really interested in this, I will share this spreadsheet. It's very simple. It's just, just took a bunch of the S&P 500 returns, and I just looked at the year returns over time. But the spreadsheet also has monthly gains too. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Hopefully that gives you a little comfort. If you want the spreadsheet, I can give it to you. There's better ones out there, better tools out there. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.